Hello and welcome to today's Pitch Deck Clinic, where we've got Ross Walker from Hyperlocal. Ross, tell us about Hyperlocal.
Hi guys, thanks for having me, Anthony. Hyperlocal is all about connecting people in local communities. We responded to a government funding competition. Essentially, we're trying to connect the dots and get help to those who need it.
Okay, so I talk to lots of founders and see lots of pitch decks, and in general, pitch decks, I love to see pitch decks that are focused for an end user, what's in it for them. Now, we all love propositions that are good for the world, that help the community, but sometimes the good for the community, has a difficulty showing why a particular person would use it. So I think when we look at the deck, we now tease out and let's see how we can help focus the deck on not just showing why it's great for everyone, but also why a given party would use it. The first page, I think, is gorgeous, is lush, and shows us, at least helps us guess what the proposition might be, right? So it's, in this case, it seems about, produce and connecting people. At least was what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is the virtual borough market or something, but will I be right or will I be wrong? Let's take a look. Okay, so next slide is, whoa, we've lost the cool graphics. So I think over here, so let's see. In your previous slide, on the first one, it was all about connect, provide, enable. So now I see the word connect, and I realize that there's going to be a theme. So let's see how we go. So again, one of the key things in Pitch Deck Clinic is the person viewing it, the investor, there's a lot of noise, and they're trying to put every little bit of signal they see together. So everything you see on the page, I'm going to interpret as having meaning. And so when I see, connect on the first page and the second, I'm already building that story arc. So let's see if this story arc makes sense. So vulnerable and those self-isolating. So clearly the self-isolating, you've picked a COVID, at least, enhancement. Poor utilization of volunteers. Okay, so here I think you've taken me on a slightly different tangent, because the first screen seemed to indicate, produce, local producers, but now it's about volunteers. So tell me a little bit more about what the audience and who you're connecting with whom. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, the connect part is all about, we think that there's a huge resource of people that are really keen to help and really want to kind of, not even, they don't have to be particularly skilled things. They're just simple things like, for example, delivering someone's supermarket shopping. And I think what I've tried to do here with this bit is say, per utilization of volunteers, over 1 million people signed up to work for the NHS volunteer scheme, but less than 20% of those were actually utilized and put to work. So that's what I'm trying to get across here.
Okay, so perhaps thinking about that, maybe the first intro screen, those lush graphics of fruit and vegetable, might be better of someone's apartment with someone standing at the door with the delivery. Then you immediately get in your mind a different visualization. Okay, so over here, I think another thing you might think about is you saying essentially the problem space, which is the thing you're building, I think, before you've established what it is and why a consumer would want it. So I think for me, and I'm just guessing because I don't know what the proposition is yet. I think a problem, many people need stuff, or sorry, as somebody looking for medicine, fruit, whatever it might be, I need a way to get that delivered. And maybe as someone with free time or wanting to do good, I'm looking for an app or something that gives me missions to do. I'm guessing here, but let's see where we get next. Okay, so next one then is provide. So unemployment is rising, out of work. Okay, so that's, I think I guessed, which is the other side of the coin, right? Somebody who's got time is now looking for work. I'm not sure that we've knowing that it's about volunteer or paid work, because you've mentioned volunteer, but also unemployment, which seems about paid.
Okay.
So tell me then a bit more about the proposition, and does the person doing the work get paid? A little bit more.
So I think the initial complete focus, I say complete, it's obviously not complete, but the initial focus is on the volunteer aspect of things. But we essentially want to enable people to also earn money from doing these jobs when we kind of expand it to more than just kind of vulnerable people and those that are self-isolating. So the idea is to build a platform. The technology is the same whether you're a volunteer or whether you're working in a paid kind of sense. So it's essentially, the idea is that someone can sign up and then choose to waive any fee for any deliveries that they do.
Okay, so I think a thought here, you might want to bring the slide to life by, for example, if you had a picture of a person on a bicycle, looking with stacking some stuff on the back or something, then if someone can identify with the characters, then that's so much more powerful. Okay, cool. So next slide, the enable. So I think you've gone for 3 words, but this now leaves you challenged with having to do all 3. And it might have been a different tagline, which is, providing meaningful work for people out of work or something. And then it's only one concept you need to explore. So here the challenge, I think, is, in the 2 previous words, you could show a solution for the recipient or the donor. Here, you're trying to show we're going to change the world, and showing that changing the world, the economy shrinking, it's a macro level problem. And that is going to be more challenging. So, it might be better to not have to go into that area, because truly it's going to be hard pressed to see how you're going to solve that one. Okay. So solution, I like that. Okay, so crowdsourced peer-to-peer logistics platform with an e-commerce front end. I think I get it. It's quite a mouthful. I think, what have you developed so far? Have you got any designs, mock-ups, app builds?
Yeah, we have wireframes and kind of mock-ups of that kind of thing. We've also kind of already made fairly significant headway with the actual development of the software. So.
Okay, well, that's good. I think this would be the perfect place to show, a picture of a phone or something, because then that would instantly bring to mind, if it said jobs or people or something, then, you wouldn't need to explain it. In an instant, someone would go, oh, right, I'm going to push this button and do this. And also, of course, it looks like you're much further, well, I mean, you're explaining that you're much further along when you show some pictures. Okay, the question mark is... not good. So, because that, of course, your goal was to show we'll be doing other things, but it looks like we haven't thought of the other things.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So crowdsourced. So supermarkets. Okay. So tell me about growth hacking supermarkets.
Okay. So what we're doing with supermarkets is we're essentially allowing individuals to purchase supermarket items through our site. So we're kind of using the reach that supermarkets already have to kind of drive the initial growth of our platform.
So I would go on the platform, and how would I tell somebody what to order? Tell me a bit more about how to order. So
you would essentially, as a customer, you would log in and you would essentially enter your postcode, and you'd be able to see shops in your local area. And we're starting with supermarkets. So for example, it might be a Sainsbury's store. Click on the Sainsbury's store, and then you'll be able to order Sainsbury's products through our site, essentially.
Okay, and then the person delivering it would be someone employed by Sainsbury or someone through the app?
So that's the heroes, the hyperlocal heroes aspect of it, which are the volunteers, all the people who are working in a paid sense, and they will kind of receive the order and be able to kind of schedule in when they want to do that delivery, and then they physically go to the store, kind of carry out the shopping, and then deliver the items.
Okay, so you've actually got quite a lot of logistics. You've got to coordinate with the store and their inventory and so on, and you've got to coordinate with the delivery people. And that in itself sounds, I mean, you may well have sorted that. It sounds to me trying to tackle both of those is quite significant. And I think the, delivery is kind of sorted. We've integrated with restaurants and menus and things like that, which has been huge. You need to do that plus organizing the other parties as well. Okay, so you've got your work cut out.
That's
Excellent.
right.
You're looking relaxed. That's good. Okay, excellent. Okay, so next, user-first growth hacking. So this is quite complicated. You've got lots of logos, which as an investor, I would delve in to find out how far you are with each of these. Can you justify the logos there? The SOM and TAM, SAM, and SOM, tell us what those mean.
So TAM is the kind of the full size of the market that we're approaching here. So it's retail. And the SAM is the addressable market, and that we're saying, okay, we want to first initially target the top 7 retailers, and then kind of our kind of realistic size that we're going to actually be able to, out of those top 7, the amount of business that we're going to be able to kind of capture from them is the SOM.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. Number one, I would avoid acronyms because I'm guessing many people watching this may not know what those mean.
Right.
Secondly, you might think about doing it in sort of concentric circles. So instead of just numbers on the page, imagine you showed a circle and it said the total market size. Number 2, the top 7 retailers. Number 3, and then the inner one, these are the ones we're targeting. And then people go, oh, great, okay, you're starting here, and then it goes to there, and then it goes to there, and then it's visualized, and then also it brings context to the logos. The logos sit in one of the circles. So these are the ones you're not doing Sainsbury's now, but you are doing, whatever one now, or vice versa. So then it becomes part of the story. Okay. And I'm not sure about the growth hacking because the growth hacking probably comes to me to mean the way you engage in your marketing rather than the overall opportunity, perhaps.
Right.
Okay. All right. So next. Okay. So this looks like the competition slide. If so, I would probably put, the competition on the top.
I toyed with that for a while, but then it seemed obvious. So I don't know. I think I decided that I would leave it off, but that does make sense. Probably to put it on. All
right. I think you've got a little work to probably quantify the competition a bit more. And here, the traditional is that sort of 2-axis graph where, one of them might be sort of the community part and the other one might be the marketplace or something. So that, for example, the marketplace is whether lots of people are signing up to as vendors or whether you've chosen a few vendors, and the other one might be whether the delivery people are, employed, 0-hour contracts, volunteers or something like that. So by just having the single axis, I would see immediately deliveries, the clear one that comes to mind because you've showed pictures of vegetables and so on. I would buy into Instacart being there. Shopify and Amazon would be a slight surprise, but having mentioned it, maybe. But Amazon, they run their own logistics, so and it doesn't look like it's, you've mentioned NHS and other things, so I would see them in a different space. Next door, interesting. I wouldn't have thought about it, but now you mention it, maybe, neighbors talking to each other, maybe organizing delivery things, whatever. I thought next door people just speak to each other. No one actually does anything. I'm not sure, but that's a bit different. And then Facebook's like, oh, okay, that was left field. I did not expect to see Facebook here. So I think maybe this 2-act structure, 2-axis structure of showing how, on 2 axes, I think you'd probably have more success in teasing out the where you sit, and then traditionally you sit at the top right somewhere, of course. That's what everyone's looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so next. Okay, so here we've got kind of a take two of the last screen.
Yeah.
And that is definitely looking interesting. So let's take a look what's happening here, and I'll try and guess. Okay, so we've got our competition over here. Then freedom, choice.
That hasn't come out particularly well, I must say. That Maslow's hierarchy of needs isn't particularly legible. I'm not sure why that is.
So tell us a bit more, because obviously Maslow's hierarchy starts with quite a big picture thing.
Yeah.
Explain what's happening here.
Yeah, so I mean, just to go back, it's just a slight step, and that was that we kind of are noticing here that we've got these two ends of the spectrum. We've got the customer focused guys, and then we've got the community focused guys. And what's interesting is that Facebook, for example, they've just brought out this shops feature, which is kind of all about local businesses and doing all that kind of e-commerce side of things for local businesses. So they're kind of moving in the direction of kind of customer focus in terms of delivering the same kind of thing that some of the other companies on the left side of the.
And do you think it's going to work, by the way, with Facebook?
I mean, I think the fact the thing that they've got on their side is they've got a huge number of users, and they can quite quickly iterate and do this kind of stuff. And I think on that basis, they've got a good chance of making it work for sure.
Okay. Should we go on record and say we think it will fail totally, because nobody is thinking of using Facebook for that? And when I go shopping, I don't go, Facebook are things you do not hear in the same sentence.
But I think, for example, Facebook Marketplace has had a huge kind of amount of success in my opinion, and I think that they, a lot of people I know that will, Gumtree's kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. Kind of Facebook, because they've got the users on it, is quite straightforward for them to make that work.
All right, interesting. Okay, so we won't delve into the slide, but I think clearly each slide has a clear purpose, and I think if this is to show whether heroes or the competitive advantage, then I would probably think this and the previous slide would get rolled into one. And maybe the two axes would help get there in one. Okay, so now we still have to take three. So I think it's probably time to lose the competition, and maybe get to. So you're saying large scale. So this is showing your growth plans, and so here I think it might be opportune to start, and maybe you're going to get this on the next slide, I totally don't know, but maybe showing 2020, 2021, 2022, or some sort of chart which says where you're starting now. You're going to start just in Hull with 3 volunteers, and then next month it's going to be wherever, and cut to UK, and then world or whatever. So large scale quickly. How long is quickly? How big is scale? So quantify that, and then that's going to link to your funding plans and your revenue targets and things like that, assuming they're those. Okay, so all right. So now comes, of course, the big question that I've been wondering, and I'm sure everyone has: where's the business model? So okay, so percent of markup, and then delivery. Okay, split between heroes. So you call them heroes and you call them volunteers. I guess the cynic in us would say, are these not just 0-hour workers? What would you answer to that?
I think that's something that we do need to clarify and figure out a bit more. And we've kind of been calling every person that works for the platform a kind of hyperlocal hero is kind of a general term to describe them, on the basis of the fact that most of the work is going to be done for vulnerable people and those that are self-isolating. There maybe needs to be some work to do to figure out whether you're only a hero if you volunteer, or you're a hero regardless of what kind of capacity you are working on the platform in. Okay,
all right, cool. So you've also got a lot of 4-letter acronyms, and you might look to put in a more simple language, because the problem when you use acronyms is, firstly, not all investors know that, and if they don't know it, then they may be embarrassed to ask, and if they're embarrassed to ask, then it's just meaningless, and it may also put them off from wanting to follow up because they don't want to getting caught out not knowing something. What's the ARPU? I don't know. How much are you earning on each customer? I don't know, dude. There was the ARPU number in there. Is that the ARPU? So yes, okay. All right. So now we get to the team. So the team, the company name is different to the product name, which of course is fine. So somebody may well ask, what's the delta between, what else is the company doing if the product is different? So that's something to explain. I think the slide is looking slightly bare. So I think you've got several classes of photos there as well.
That's true.
So you might want to think about how you get 3 smiling faces. Just ask everyone to take a selfie or something, so it looks more like a team than one person's in a garden and the other one's ski photo and the other one's got from their LinkedIn profile. So all right, and I think MD, CTO, great. Okay, and I think MD's probably, or CEO is probably more of the startup term than MD, but that's minor. And I think you can also, I mean, normally you wouldn't put limited. I guess, limited to me often looks like it's an Indian company that puts limited on the end. If I see that in a LinkedIn profile, I go, that's an Indian company.
Right.
I think in the UK, you normally just leave out the limited other than in a legal document. Okay, so I think the second last slide here. I think is mixing 2 things. Firstly, down the bottom, are these team members?
Yes.
Okay, so to me, those belong on the previous slide. So team is going to have your exec team and then the devs, UX, whatever it is together. So, putting them all on one page is going to make it look like there's my team. And then I think it's not so much the history that I'm interested in, it's the future timeline. So imagine that this was now a, horizontal axis timeline, and it would show, January 2020, July 2020, December, whatever it might be, where you've come from and where you're going.
Right.
So the previous part is less interesting. It's the future that is more interesting. And I think so here the previous slide becomes the team. This slide becomes the timeline. The timeline might come before the team, but we'll see what the next and what looks like the last slide will do. Okay, and that just has a graphic on it. So I would expect this to be how much you're raising. So the last slide, in my view, is either the ask or contact us. So how much are you looking to raise?
Probably about 250K, I think, initially.
Okay, so I would think the last slide would then go, now looking to raise 250K, offering SEIS and EIS, contact Rosset, wherever, for more. And now, the perfect, to me, pitch deck is this story arc that establishes, a problem, shows you the solution, explores the market opportunity and the competition, and then shows where you are, the team, and what you're looking for. So you hook me at the beginning, you justify and explain it in the middle, and then you do your ask at the end, and then hopefully if I like it, I see your email address and I'm going to ping you to get in with more. Okay, cool. So I've been doing all the talking. What questions do you have for me?
I think the one a bit about the growth hacking thing. I think could you explain a bit more what you meant about like the logos stuff and like how you like your concerns about that and how that
yeah. So I think an investor is aware that people add logos to decks
Mhm.
with various levels of, let's say, engagement.
Right.
So if I see a logo, does this mean you have a signed deal with Sainsbury?
Right. Okay.
Or does it mean you've spoken to them on the phone once?
Right.
Or that in fact you've never spoken to them, but you hope to do something with them?
Right.
So I think of course, you always want to be honest with investors. So it's really important that you show the context of a logo if you're going to put in a page. So, it might say signed deal or letter of intent or, and talking to, or potential market or competitor. And then the investor knows in a moment why they're seeing those logos. So in that case, you showed a lot of logos. My guess is from the stage of the company, you probably don't have deals with them. You may or may not have spoken to them, but they probably mean that there are the ones you'd like to talk to.
Yeah.
Maybe I got that wrong. But I think explaining that will avoid either an investor thinking they might have been misled or using the valuable time on a call to challenge you on which of those, and then that becomes a net negative.
Cool. I think the only other question I have is I read somewhere that one of the things you recommend is to kind of distill this idea that you do one thing and you kind of do it well. I just wondered if you had any comment with regards to this, because I think the first 3 slides about connect, provide, enable, that when I read that that was one of your kind of things that you look for, it kind of seemed to kind of go directly against that. I wonder if you had any comments on that.
So thank you. I love to be referenced and now I have to justify it. So I think that before I answer that, let's take a step back and look at the deck overall in the pitch. So I think what you're looking to do is solve a logistically very complicated thing, as we've covered, integrating with merchants and, organizing volunteers or people. You're gonna have to rate them, and you've got a 2-sided rating system. There's a lot of stuff to build. Secondly, you need to more clearly differentiate between the services that already exist. Ocado will deliver, but who's going to pick up my medicine from Boots or something? So I think establishing where you sit in that ecosystem and where the heroes/volunteers, sit compared to 0-hour contract workers and things like that. So there is a complicated ecosystem. So now let's get back to the do one thing and do it well. So my guess is, the nub of the idea came from, waking up one day and seeing there are people who are self-isolating, little old ladies who need stuff. There are places that have them but don't have the delivery logistics.
Yeah.
And there are people who are out of work and would love to do something, both maybe for some money, but at any rate to help out in these difficult times. So from the nub, then came all the workings that showed how it needed to play out. And from that, then came this. The question is, can you strip it right back to basics again to go, what would be the simplest proposition that we could focus on that only needed to deal with one side of this? It's either the merchant or the delivery. Maybe the person who wants stuff goes to the website or wherever it is and organizes the purchase themselves and is now just picking someone to deliver. And so maybe the app is much simpler, which is, it's all about a map. I live here, in a sort of suitably anonymized version until they've connected and verified each other. I live here, stores over here, who can deliver? And then you see some people in different areas who go, yes, I will. And now you've reduced by a factor of 3 the amount of effort that's needed because you're only working with the the delivery people. And now maybe that can also start growing to, it's not just about deliveries, it's a range of other tasks that are local, and then it plays into the local piece. And then maybe the first slide as well is no longer fruit and veg. It's all about a map with, instead of the Uber map with little cars, it's the heroes on them and the people who need stuff.
Cool. Okay.
That was quite an exploration.
That was quite a comprehensive answer. Yeah.
So, but then I think, I think your challenge here is there is a lot of stuff to build, and an investor that senses there's going to be a lot of stuff to build is going to sense that their money is going to get heavily diluted by future rounds before you get to deliver that proposition. And so what is the minimum you can do, which is there's Mrs. Jones in Hull who needs whatever, and there are 4 people in Hull who've got some spare time, they're looking for a bit of cash. How can you connect them? I think the other thing is, what validation have you done? Because as an investor, I would buy into the dream of the idea. I think it's fantastic, but how do we know that the people looking for the service can't get resolution today by the existing delivery platforms out there, that they are the class of person that's on the internet, that has a mobile phone, whatever it is. So the Venn diagram between not serviced by current solutions and am able to use your tech and its solution. And if that the intersection is large enough, then that's great. If it turns out to be really small, then it's a fairly small market.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it. Thanks very much.
All right. Well, I think that was a cool dive, and I think it took us on a big perturbation, including my hopping in and quite unsolicited feedback in redefining or defining what it might be. So, Ross, that was amazing talking. If anyone's interested in getting involved, please contact Ross, and we'll have the details right up here as well. So, thank you.
Thanks very much.